Near the end of the last ice age, the largest recorded flood in Earth's history ravaged what is now much of eastern Washington. It changed the land in ways that are hard to fathom, carving deep canyons and massive coulees, and staggeringly all of this was done in a matter of days. In fact, the only place scientists have found erosion similar to this is on the surface of Mars. Known as the Channeled Scablands, this is a place I have become obsessed with exploring. And so for the next few days, my friend David and I set our sights on a remote area in far eastern Washington, with the aim to explore as much of the Scablands as possible. But between the extreme cold, overgrown trails, and vehicle issues, exploring this otherworldly landscape wouldn't come easy. I'm back out here in Eastern Washington, and it has been way too long since I've been out here. It's been about a year, but I'm really excited to be back. Last year, I came out to Eastern Washington about this time of year, late January, and explored the Washington Scablands and sort of told the story about this insane flood, the biggest known flood in the history of Earth that happened here in this area. And I absolutely loved what I saw out here, and apparently a lot of you did as well, because it is one of the best performing videos that I've ever had on the channel. So if you haven't seen it yet, check that video out, because I tell the whole story about this mega flood and what happened and how it created these insane landscapes that you can find in Eastern Washington. So I'm back out here, this time further east, closer to Spokane, and you can see behind me, I'm with David from Off the Grind, and we're going to be exploring some more areas that were affected by these floods, hanging out, camping, off-roading, and just having a good time. So really excited to hit the trail, but before we do, I'm gonna let some air out of the tires. Because one thing I've noticed with the Tacoma, if I'm being honest, is that when I'm at street pressure and I'm off-road, even if it's not particularly rough, the ride with all the weight in the camper on the back is not super pleasant. It's definitely not anywhere near as good as the Lexus. So I'm just gonna drop some air pressure to make things a little more bearable for the next couple days. We just came across something that is pretty spectacular after driving on this trail for not that long, honestly, maybe just about 10 minutes or so. We were just driving along, and then out of nowhere, this lake came into view. This is absolutely incredible. It looks like it's mostly frozen over, and then there's these kind of little canyon walls and these eroded areas around. This is just amazing. And that's the thing about this part of Eastern Washington that most people don't realize, is that the landscape in some of these areas is so dramatic, especially in places like this, where the landscape was carved by those mega floods from the Ice Age. And I really can't imagine a better place to set up camp. So I don't think we're going anywhere. I think we're gonna set up camp and hang out here till the sun goes down and enjoy the views from this lake. The sheer scale of the floods that created this landscape can be hard to wrap your head around. So if it's a story you're not familiar with, let me get you up to speed. That story begins around 15,000 years ago, where 300 miles to the east, an enormous lake holding more water than Lakes Erie and Ontario combined formed during the last ice age. Known as Lake Missoula, the water was blocked by a dam of ice 2,000 feet high. At some point, the ice dam ruptured, unleashing a torrent of water with the equivalent flow of every river on Earth times 10. A wall of water hundreds of feet high, traveling at 80 miles per hour, was unleashed on southeast Washington, scouring the landscape and killing any living thing unlucky enough to be in its path. It was the single largest flood in the history of our planet. The flood was so powerful that it carved coulees up to 3 miles wide and 1,000 feet high, cut hundreds of waterfalls, washed away entire hillsides, and carried rocks the size of houses along with it. Normally, this type of erosion occurs over millions of years, but here, it all happened in a matter of days. A single flood of this cataclysmic scale is hard enough to wrap your head around. But scientists now think that mega floods like this one occurred between 40 and 80 times, as the ice dam would continually reform and burst again. Well, the sun just went down behind me, and the sound that is coming off this lake, which is all frozen over, is one of the craziest things I think I've ever heard. I think it's just the wind that's reflecting off the ice and is creating this like ghostly whoosh. I don't know how to describe it, but let's see if you can hear it. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but it's just wild. Good morning. It is 18 degrees out. My beard is frozen, and yeah, well, basically everything outside is frozen right now, but it is beautiful. The lake behind me with the sun rising, absolutely spectacular. This is such a great campsite, but I don't think we're gonna stick around here very long because we've got a couple other areas we want to check out, some other lakes, some bigger lakes, some places that we should be able to hike around and really see some of the geology, some of the craziness of the Scablands. So that's the plan for today. Really excited to see where that takes us. We're just warming up the trucks and we're gonna hop in and get out of here because it is not super pleasant out here right now. I think it'll be a little nicer once the sun comes up, but excited to see where today takes us. Well, unfortunately, we've run into a bit of an unforeseen issue here. David started the Bronco and his steering is frozen. What's going on?
I truly have no idea. The last time this happened, there was water in the rack itself. But I'm pretty positive that's not what's going on now, and the tie rods are free. They're moving around just fine. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening, to be honest. I might check fuses for the power steering, see if something busted there, and maybe that'll help.
Well, this is definitely not what we had planned for the day, but we are going nowhere fast right now. We're just gonna have to hope that with the sun coming up and it warming up even just 5 or 6 degrees and David running the engine in the Bronco, that his steering will unfreeze and we can get out of here. But how long we'll be here, to be determined. But hey, at least there are worse places to be stranded.
our left on a ridgeline.
Well, thankfully, David's steering unfroze. I think just the truck heating up and the weather picking up a few degrees helped. So we're back on the road. The land that we were just on is private land, but we had permission from the landowner, which was super cool. And what an amazing piece of property that he has. But we're gonna head into some BLM land next. And you know, exploring around Eastern Washington is a lot of fun. There's some really cool spots out here, but I will say, it is an absolute minefield of public land and private land, and it's really hard to know where you are. And it's one of the things I'm really thankful about with Onyx Off-Road, at least with the Elite membership. You get the most detailed public-private land borders that I've ever seen. Before I started using Onyx, I was using another mapping software, and in areas like this, it would show you the little pockets of BLM land, but it wouldn't show you specifically which land was private, and it definitely wouldn't show you the specific landowner. That's the other thing with Onyx, is it shows you not only what land is private, but it will show you the landowner and the border of their land. It's super detailed, and when you're out here in Eastern Washington, it is incredibly, incredibly helpful. Just another reason that I love Onyx Off-Road, and of course, as always, Onyx is a sponsor of the channel, and you can save 20% if you use the link in the description below. So if you're looking for a new mapping software, check it out. Well, we just made our next stop. This is Coffee Pot Lake. There's not a whole lot down here, but it's a little BLM area, and there's camping and this old dock down here. And this lake, just like the last lake we were at, is all frozen over. And I'm kind of surprised because this is a lot bigger lake. David just stepped out onto the ice, and it's pretty solid, but I'm not going out there. But another just beautiful lake out here in this area. And we're kind of in this, I don't know if valley is the right word, but if you look at the map, there's just all these little lakes and streams, and it's from one of the channels of the Ice Age floods that came through here and carved out all of this. And it just still blows my mind to think that a flood carved this out potentially in a matter of days, but it has created one of the coolest landscapes in an area that you really wouldn't expect it. But I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit, enjoy. I think I'm gonna see if I can get the drone up and get some shots around here because it is spectacular. Before we move on to the third lake that we're aiming to camp at tonight and explore a little more out there. Just across the lake sat this abandoned cabin, its origin unknown. And a bit further to our south, the lake was unfrozen. Along the ice's edge were signs of predation. The likely prey, Canada geese, which numbered in the hundreds here, seemingly taking refuge in the thawed lake. Working our way deeper into BLM land, our target was a campsite David had been to once before, and one that he had been obsessing about getting back to ever since. But the further into the trail we pushed, the more overgrown it got, becoming apparent that no one had been out here in quite some time. Well, we're getting close to a campsite that David has been wanting to come to for a while, but he also got stuck coming up this particular little bit of trail when he was here last time. Temporarily stuck. Lightly stuck, we'll say.
Yeah, lightly stuck.
Lightly stuck. But nonetheless, always like to walk these parts of trail before driving them just to see what we're getting ourselves into. So it's pretty dry out here and it's really freaking cold, so chances are everything's gonna be frozen.
Yeah, it's brutally cold, I would say.
He's been complaining about it literally non-stop since we got here.
Okay, I don't have a sauna to sleep in, guy.
Yeah, he's a little jealous of the fireplace.
Last time I got stuck here, there's nothing a little right foot couldn't take care of, but that also eats up the trail and is really bad for the trail. So it's what I needed to do to get out, but like you want to avoid that stuff at all costs. So now I walk trails to make sure I don't tear them up.
To our surprise, this is the first thing we've seen that is not completely frozen. I don't know why this isn't frozen, but it's kind of weird.
It's so weird.
Look at this. I don't even know. This is like, I'm pretty sure this is how the Ninja Turtles happened. This is like some primordial ooze right here.
The little ones were crawling into a strange glowing ooze from a broken canister nearby.
This is a very weird stretch of road, and it's also very slippery. But I'm kind of just curious now to walk further down and see what it looks like. And it continues to get even worse the further down we go. Now we have ice and a corner, and we got it all. This is like the sketchy trifecta.
It really is.
Well, sometimes trails just make the decision easy for you, and this one kind of did that, especially with that last icy section. But holy cow, we just got down to the lake. It's almost like an oasis down here. Like David was describing to me these trees. It's like I've just been transported to a different place. Wow, this is cool. We definitely have to come back here. This is where we probably would have set up camp if we could have set up camp here, if we could have got the trucks here. But this is just spectacular. We've got the lake over there, and then I mean, look at all these rock formations and outcroppings and everything. And again, I probably sound a little bit like a broken record, but it's just wild to think that floods created all of this and just eroded all of this in a super short period of time. I love it out here. This is amazing. Standing in this spot, I tried my best to imagine what it would have been like to have stood here during the floods. The rumble of the approaching floodwaters would have been heard a half an hour before the water arrived. Then a sudden blast of displaced air would have hit with the power of a bomb, followed by a wall of water hundreds of feet high. And it's believed that humans were in this area during the time of these floods, and for any unlucky enough to have been in its path, it would have meant instant death. 15,000 years later, the story is told through the scars left on the land. And out of this immense destruction has come a landscape that might have more in common with Mars than with Earth. With daylight fading, we hiked back to the trucks and set off in search of camp. change of plans on dinner tonight. We're making breakfast sandwiches for dinner because Christine made these for us, which, thank you, I love you, you're the best. She was adamant that she needed to make these.
Thank you, I love you, you're the best.
Adamant that she needed to make these to keep us alive, and I think she might be right, because it's so cold out now that instead of making these for breakfast, we're gonna make them for dinner, because the idea of cooking something else doesn't seem very appealing. And we've got this fire pit here with the grate, so I'm just gonna throw them right on there, and this should be the easiest camp dinner I've had in a long time. As dinner cooked, the sun sank, casting a beautiful golden glow on the landscape and a truly spectacular reflection off the frozen lake. It was an incredible sight to behold.
Sure, sir.
Oh, dude, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Warm on the outside, warm on the inside.
Warming on the inside.
No warming on the inside. Thawing out.
Yeah. Can't believe how cold it is. Holy crap.
David was right. It was very cold. Luckily, though, I had come prepared with the perfect way to stay warm while passing the time before bed.
Ooh.
Ah!
Yoshi! Yoshi! This is gonna be stuck in my head for many, many months.
As it should be. This is just pure nostalgia.
It's so great, dude.
That's a save point, right? I think that's a save point. So if you die, then you start in the middle of the level.
Oh my goodness. I'm a big boy now.
Good morning. The sun just came up, but I'm just hanging out in the camper a little bit longer because honestly it's really, really nice in here. I just made myself an espresso. I'm sitting by the fire, and it was really cold last night. Very comfortable in the camper, and I made some changes that made it a little bit warmer in here. One, I actually realized on my last snow camping trip I was running the heater on low. So it turns out running it on high definitely makes a pretty big impact. And then also there are these privacy screens that cover the wing doors, and it was suggested to me in the comments of that snow camping video to lower those, and it kind of creates a little bit of a thermal barrier between the aluminum outside and the inside of the camper. And I think between those two things, I got the camper substantially warmer in here. I would guess it's probably 50 to 55 degrees in here, and outside right now probably 15, so pretty big difference from last time, so I'm really happy about that. But David just got a fire going outside, so I should probably get out there and maybe pretend like I want to help him start that and get the day going.
Hulk.
In the landscape out here definitely has not disappointed. And the fact that everything has been frozen, all the lakes have been frozen over, it just makes it that much more dramatic between the canyons and the frozen lake and the reflection off the ice. It's just so beautiful out here. I can't say it enough. I'm obsessed with the Scablands and I can't wait to explore more of it. But we're down to our last bundle of wood and it is in the teens right now and the wind has picked up. So as soon as we step away from the fire, it is not super pleasant. So I don't think we're gonna stick around here all that much longer. I think this is gonna do it for this trip. But it was so cool to explore a new area of the Scablands and just kind of relive this story in my head of what happened in this area. I hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride and learning a little bit more about the Scablands and the cause and all that, because the story is just, it's more fiction than fact in terms of just how it feels, but it is in fact fact. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you haven't yet watched my first video on the Scablands, you should definitely do that, where I go a little bit more in depth on the story itself. You can watch that video right here. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.